All right, so I will tell you, in dealing with people in the public sector, especially school board members, here's what I hear a lot of, and maybe you've heard this. I have no idea what they're talking about. I just sign on the dotted line. I don't know anything about public purchasing. I'm not an expert in re-roofs. I just have to trust my superintendent. But I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm getting what I'm getting on the roof. I don't know what we're doing. Hey, with the parking lot. I have no idea what this should cost and what it shouldn't. I just sign on the line. That's what I hear from a lot of school board members. They have no idea. They get a bunch of stuff thrown at them from their superintendent. We're spending this, we're spending this, we're spending this, we're spending this. And they just say, okay, because they don't know. So instead of challenging that person, they just sign off on it and hope it's the best use of taxpayer money there is, right? So that is a very common issue in the world of purchasing and school board members. But what school board members need to understand, just like we said in the security room, school board members are 100% responsible for the safety of every child in their entire school system. And they are 100% responsible for every single taxpayer dollar spent. And there are legalities that go behind that. In the state of Ohio, there are only 3 legal ways to spend taxpayer dollars. And so this is where school board members get a little uptight because they don't know. They don't know the statutes. They've never been told the statutes. And the Ohio organizations tell them just to do what their superintendent says, right? We have an infamous superintendent. We've had infamous superintendents in the school board where I am, where they've made all their best friends rich with their taxpayer money because the school board just says yes, 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 right? In the state of Ohio, there's only 3 legal ways, and school board members need to know this because they're 100% responsible. There's 3 legal ways to spend taxpayer dollars in the state of Ohio. You can conduct a formal bid or RFP or RFQ or ITB or whatever mystical letters you're presented with. You can purchase it through a state term schedule, or you can piggyback on a publicly procured contract. So the first thing I want to overcome for you is something that so many of you will hear. And that is, we can't do construction or re-roofs or paving without bidding it out. If anybody ever tells you that, they are 100% incorrect and they are misinforming you. But a lot of times they love to do that because they love to help their friends out. I hate to say it, but it happens, okay? That's not always the case. But it also justifies a lot of positions in your school system. If you're busy writing bids and bidding everything out, it takes time, right? And resources to do that. A lot of times, if you have to do an RFP, it comes with a lot of legal restrictions. You have to publicly put the bid out there. You have to wait a certain amount of time. You have to write the bid. You have to run the bid by your legal. You have to get 3 bids back. And in many cases, you have to pick the lowest bidder. And if you don't, you can end up getting sued by the lowest bidder, who you know is not bidding accurately, but they're the lowest bidder. Bidding is a debacle in the public sector. It is an expensive debacle. You end up getting a subpar product. In many cases, you end up getting a subpar product. You end up not getting what you wanted. You pigeonhole the vendor and end up getting killed with change orders, and you end up spending twice as much with that vendor as you would have if you'd gone with another vendor, because they're change ordering you to death. But they're change ordering you to death because you wrote a really bad bid. And that's because you don't have somebody on your staff who's a professional procurement expert in that space, right? So unless you have a professional procurement expert in the paving or roofing or security space, those are the three spaces we work in, you're not going to have a legitimate bid, right? I just worked with a county. They went through all this process. They paid an architect to spec it, and they got 0 responses. And now, 9 months after they needed a new roof, they're starting over again. Not unusual. Not unusual. So that's the RFP process. The state term schedule is those contracts are like this, and your roofs, your project's out here. They never apply to your roof. You can try to squeeze in, but they don't. They're like trying to fit, one roof into another contract. So it's like you're committed to these specifications, but those aren't what you need. And a lot of times they're minority set-asides and they cost a lot of money. So that leaves you with something called cooperative purchasing agreements. And again, I want to spend a few minutes here, and I don't want to miss anything. I want to talk to you about the legality of cooperative purchasing agreements. What I'm finding is a lot of legal departments in the state of Ohio, they're right when they tell you that 9.48 of the statutes, and I've given you guys this. And this is what I'm going to talk to you about right now. And you need to arm yourself with this in case your legal tells you you can't use a cooperative purchasing agreement. There is a place in the statutes that says you can't use cooperative purchasing agreements for things like construction, demolition, or maintenance, like re-roofing and stuff. But what they don't tell you is that there's another part of the law that says unless B, C, D, E. Okay? And so there is a cooperative, there is a co-op, which is in Ohio, that fulfills all of those. And you can use the Equalis cooperative agreement through Roof Connect to get paving, re-roofing, and security. And the last thing you want to bid out is your security. That does not make sense, okay? So you can use these co-ops. And let me just, so a political subdivision by law, a school is included in the state of Ohio. When they say a political subdivision, it includes schools. So, and it says a school district may do any of the following. They can participate in a joint purchasing or a cooperative program. It says schools can purchase through a cooperative purchasing program. And school districts have a legal exemption from their own bids. You have a legal exemption from bidding, okay? So what I want to share with you is that when it comes time for a new roof, Cincinnati schools are infamous. It created what they did and the taxpayer money they wasted, and the roofing company that was so abusive of taxpayer dollars is what ignited a 2019 AG opinion that you couldn't use these co-ops for construction, demolition, replacement, unless it was because of the bad behavior of a roofing organization. And the Cincinnati, pardon?
Was it Warren Roofing?
No. Mm-mm. It was, what is it? Truco? I wrote it down because I watch the videos of it all the time. I hate to say this, but a lot of times those spaces, you will have some people in it that are interesting. So let me explain the co-op. So your alternatives, I like this slide. Here's your alternatives. You can identify your need. You can develop a scope. That means paying somebody to come out and do all that. And then you can go off on the bid process. And it's a nightmare. Or you can just skip all of this and do a cooperative agreement. That's where the co-op configures your solution, and then they execute. If you have a vendor that you love and you want to use, you can still use them, and you don't have to put it out to bid, and you don't have to get sued if you use them and they're the lowest bidder, if they fulfill the obligations of the cooperative agreement. So you can see how it saves you a ton of time and money to use a cooperative purchasing agreement. And in Ohio, because what Equalis is one of the co-ops, there's multiple co-ops, but they're not all the same. But Equalis addressed the 2019 opinion, and they did it with a COG in Ohio, which is what the Attorney General mandated, and then Roof Connect, Pave Connect, and Patriot Construction won those bids. Cooperative agreements are bid out in a highly competitive, highly transparent environment, and that is why they are statutorily acceptable. Somebody already did the work, and that burden is released from you and your staff. So what I recommend to school board members is A, understand those statutes. B, if you have any questions, call me. And C, tell your facilities and building department that you want to use co-ops moving forward. You can't lose. You can't lose. You'll be compliant. You know, we keep you legal. It keeps you legal. It's hard to stay legal in the bid process. There's a lot of steps to that. With the co-op, you are totally legal. You're going to have savings. It's inevitable that you will save. You have flexibility. So whatever your needs are, because everybody has different needs. You might want to have a roofing maintenance program. That's part of the program. You might want to just, do a 5-year plan over here. You just need to get this building through 5 more years. Or you might have ability, I need 30 years on this building. There's different solutions. So you have flexibility. And then you have support of the membership. So you have a lot of, Equalis itself will support you, which is the co-op. All you do is join the co-op. It's free. You go online and join it, and it's free. And essentially what you're becoming is part of the COG, which is the cooperative government agency. Basically a group of public sector agencies bid this out in a competitive environment, and you're piggybacking off it. And you're paying to do that, no doubt. You don't pay to join. It's built in, though, if you utilize what they have done. But you will always, it is inevitable that it will cost you significantly less at the end of the day to use a cooperative purchasing arrangement. So, like I said, there's Equalis, there's different ones. Equalis fulfills all of the obligations of the statutes to keep you legal. So, I knew I'd keep it really brief, but because I wanted to answer questions. It's really simple. It's very simple what we do. And so let's say your staff comes and says, yeah, we need a new roof. This building needs a new roof. Hopefully, you've already established something with your staff to say if you need a large expenditure, you talk to us first. And maybe you need to establish that. But if you haven't, you could do that. And then you say, we want to, let's use a co-op, right? We're a member of this Equalis, which all you have to do is fill out this form online. You can become a member, and that makes you a member of the Cooperative Purchasing Group. And the COG, it's called. And then you say, Roof Connect has the roofing, or Pave Connect has the paving, or Patriot Construction has the security. You call us in, and you tell us exactly how you want this run. Do you want us to go up and give the evaluation and do the specification? Excuse me. Or do you want to hire your own architect? Which you can do. Excuse me. I have a summer cold.
Melanie, I guess, how much authority does the board have
Sorry.
really getting involved in directing some of these activities? I attended a Spartan Senior Council in Dublin, meeting with I guess the director of construction or oversees, any
Facilities and buildings.
was talking about the expansion that was going to be going on in Jerome, and we're talking about a $74 million expansion. And I simply asked, and I don't understand the approval processes and how we get to that point, but it had already been approved. What I said is, if you really take a look, because there are huge, beautiful buildings empty all over Dublin, And they talked about growth trends in the Jerome, and I get that. That's where a lot of growth is occurring. I said, but at what point does that growth curve start going downhill?
Yeah.
And the comment was within the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So we're putting $74 million in building this beautiful, extravagant addition to the building. But in about 10 years, we see a decline in enrollment based on your projections. And then are we going to have space that's not really even utilized? I said, do we look at other options or alternatives within our community that over 5 years or 10 years could very adequately meet the needs of an expanding community until it begins shrinking? We don't have $74 million into a building that may not even be fully occupied. I guess.
I think Chicago is a good example of that. Chicago had this growth and their buildings are all empty.
Yeah. how does the board?
Excuse me.
This is obviously going down kind of construction or side, but how does the board get involved in really, because I don't even think those questions are asked by board members usually. They don't challenge, the administration on the expenses and to look at alternatives. And another question that maybe I'll roll into this, and who gets involved in the hiring of Centero or Panorama, or is that a totally different subject?
The Board of your board members are ultimately, they have 100, correct me if I'm wrong, they have 100% authority over everything. Is that correct? So every penny spent is on them. Every hard-earned taxpayer dollar is on them. So they better get involved.
So a contract, let's say with consulting firms like Centero, and I'm sure that there's things in Centero that they do well, but there's things within Centero that they don't do so well. Or Panorama, who's politically aligned, we know that. I guess how do those agreements occur between the school district and these consulting firms that come in and offer all this stuff?
I don't think they bid those out. I think they select them. I think there's relationships, and they don't bid those out. I don't know, but I've never seen the school board put out an RFP for consultants. But you could do a public request for information and ask to see the bids and how they selected Centero.
Because I guess I'm not a school board member. I'm just a very active grandparent with 6 grandkids in the Dublin City Schools, so I have a right to speak up and ask questions. But
Well, you're a taxpayer, and if you have no children, you're still a taxpayer.
and as a taxpayer, you really want to know where your money's going, and we spend money so freely within our school system, but I don't think there's many people asking, how's that money really going to be spent? And long term, is that really what we need? Are there some shorter term fixes? Instead, if they need more money, they just simply pass another bond issue and then pass it on to the property owner in higher taxes.
Well,
Quite honestly, I think people are getting fed up with that. I really do. I they're really reaching a threshold where they feel like they're being choked, you know, and at some point, I think, follow the money, follow the purse strings, and I think we can begin holding people accountable. But I just don't feel like there's accountability out there in spending. I just think that they sign off on all this stuff, and we get committed to a $74 million expansion at Jerome High School without really anyone having asked the question, are there alternatives?
And I think what they don't want you to know is that if it's government money coming into the schools,
Yeah.
there has to be 100% transparency.
Yeah, yeah,
If you look at
yeah.
the federal legislation for money going to schools, it says that all of those plans have to be publicly available to everyone. And it
Yeah.
has to be available on the school's website, on the state education website. And if it's not there, then that's where you need to raise hell, because you do have a right to see every line item, every penny, and how it's being spent. If it's government money, federal and state.
Well,
Part of that ESSER funding too, I don't think people realize this, is if they accept that ESSER funding, and let's say they put in some more, administration to push some of this ESSER stuff, they're saying that they will be able to maintain that without, when that ESSER funding stops, the district is saying they will be able to maintain that. Well, they're not gonna be able to maintain that without coming back to us to get more money.
Absolutely.
There will be a fiscal cliff.
Yeah.
But the ESSER funding is supposed to run through the end of 2028. So there's gonna be.
yeah, there's a couple more waves, and they're huge, huge
But when
waves.
that ends, wherever, if the public health emergency ends on a federal level, then all the ESSER money stops to schools. All of it.
Which is why they
And there will be a huge fiscal cliff.
So what would, go ahead.
One thing I want to say though is, we know that we have all this money coming in from the federal government. But it is by law the board's responsibility to approve every single contract of the money going out.
Yes.
It is their responsibility to do the due diligence on this. So what we see across the board, it's not just in Ohio, it's across the country. They take these contracts and they put them in consent because the superintendent will review those contracts behind closed doors with the school board members that have questions. And then they'll try to put them through consent so there's no public discussion. What we have to do as constituents and as a community is ask these school board members, you need to pull those items and have a conversation about these. These need to be discussed publicly, because I think what's happening is, like you said, it's the good old boy network that's getting these contracts. It's not really in the best interest, but that is exactly how we're seeing that these contracts through these publications and these textbook companies that are bringing in these materials, they're all going through consent, and there's never any public discussion. So where it really leaves us, it's not the superintendent, he or she. It really goes back to the board not doing their job and holding the superintendent accountable and being transparent to the public. So I think we just have to stay on top of them and just remind our school board members who they're there to serve. It's not the superintendent. They're there to serve the public and the community.
Yeah, so that's why at Roof Connect, we're trying to empower school board members by giving them the information so that they're not intimidated by their staff when their staff just says, well, this is the way we have to do it. And then the school board member has nothing else to fall back on, and they're just hoping that their staff is telling them the truth. And that's why, I wanted to be here today to explain that it is your choice. Cooperative purchasing agreements are a very efficient and effective way to move forward in those spaces and other spaces as well, and to not allow yourself to be kind of just, bullied by superintendents and facilities and buildings guys. Now look, they're not bad guys either, but that has been their understanding too has been that it's their job to tell their board how their board is spending the taxpayers' money. So they're not bad people. They're just doing what they've been thinking they've been told to do, basically. Yes.
Yeah, so tell me, is it the policy, is it specific to the state of Ohio, or is it kind of
Yeah.
more like a national thing? And
Yeah.
then just, can you give me a sense of the landscape? So obviously, you know, you're recommending this over other options. Are there just kind of other, kind of like if you're trying to make the case to your board of like, this is the cooperative we want to go with,
Mhm.
and they're like, well, let's look at what else is around, you know,
Mhm.
what else is around,
Mhm.
what do you think need to know going into those conversations to kind of make the case? Obviously, this is what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
What's kind of the sense of the landscape so that you're not just taking advantage of the cooperative agreement, but you're also ending up in a good way?
So I want you to know that I have no skin in the Equalis game because we're on the other cooperative contracts as well. Okay? The reason I'm sharing Equalis with you is because they have gone to the extreme to make sure they're legal with Dave Yost's 2019 opinion. Okay? There are other co-ops, and there's nothing wrong with them. But in this space, because the Attorney General specified this area, this space of like re-roofing, construction, pavement, and said you couldn't use a co-op unless boom, 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 boom. Equalis got busy and went boom, 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 boom. So it's you can't use them unless they satisfied all the unlesses, so that I can stand here and tell you beyond the shadow of a doubt you are perfectly legal using the Equalis co-op for those spaces, whereas you may not be with some of the other co-ops. Okay?
Are they in other states?
Yes, Equalis is national, and they have tons of lead agencies. That's what you call these groups. It's called a lead agency, okay? But you don't even have to worry yourself about all that. You don't have to be the lawyer. But I want you to know that you are 100% legal when you use Equalis in those spaces. And you are 100% guaranteed to save taxpayer dollars when you use the cooperative purchasing alternative for obvious reasons. And you are 100% responsible for every taxpayer dollar spent. So it is just my goal here today to give you information, because information is power. And you have the power. And again, your superintendent, your facilities folks, your building folks, they're not bad people. They're just doing what they've been told to do for decades. But ultimately, we have this new wave of board member. I would usually call on a facilities person or a building person, and I do. That's who I deal with at the City of Columbus. But I want to empower board members to have some, knowledge so that they can help make the best decision for their taxpayer, because they're the elected representative of the people. Okay? So any questions on anything else with that? The hard part, the most difficult part is what I've given you. And I would recommend that you take some copies if you want to share it with your colleagues. The other thing I tell people is take my business card. Please call me if you have any questions. Kelly will tell you, yes, I do sell roofing, and I do sell paving and security. And I highly recommend that every school system across this country pay and have a security assessment, because there is no better use of taxpayer dollars, and there is not a single taxpayer that would object to you spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a security assessment, because it's not just you get a full everything. And something that he didn't talk about was you get this software and you set it for whatever parameter of your buildings, and it'll identify anything that resembles a gun and alert you that there's something that looks like a gun and it's within a mile of your school, or however you want to set it. It's that simple. Then they don't even get in. You don't have to even, you have to be trained if they do too. You have to take every effort, make every effort to keep the kids safe. And then, this security assessment, I don't think that, gosh, it would be the first thing I'd be doing. If I were a school board member, I'd be convincing my board, we need to do this. We've got to do this. So, and that you can do that through co-ops. You just call us and say, do it. Here's my purchase order, get it done. And you know that these things have been competitively bid in a very transparent environment to fulfill all the statutes of public purchasing. These 3 ways of public purchasing, they make sense because they're protecting taxpayer dollars, but as government always does, they forget a lot of things. And thank God for cooperative purchasing, because the other route just doesn't work. A state term schedule, unless you're buying a fire truck. And the state term schedule has the exact fire truck you need, or the exact police car you need. But in most spaces that you're going to be dealing with in schools, it's just not a realistic choice. Any questions?
Did you tell them how you are able to know a lot of this stuff, that you've been an elected representative as well?
Yeah, so the reason I'm kind of qualified to share this with you is I sold to the state of Ohio for 15 years. So I sat on that side and I watched the atrocities of state term bidding and could not stand that the taxpayer was getting hosed. And I risked my business with the state to tell them, quit doing this. What you're begging for in the bid is to be pillaged. You're begging for it. And so I did get the state to change all their processes in the space I was in. But then I became a trustee and I was on the other side of the table having to spend taxpayer dollars. Trustees are responsible for every single dollar spent. That's why they're called trustees. And then I saw just the insanity and the absolute waste from that side as well. So if people were using these cooperative purchasing agreements from schools to townships to counties, they do not have the staff to write a bid. You don't have the staff, and you might have people on staff that know security, but if you do, they don't have time to do an assessment. They don't have the time if you do have somebody. So it's a good use of taxpayer dollars. But yeah, I've been on both sides of the aisle. I've seen the atrocities from both sides. And I can assure you, that's why I stand here and I assure you, cooperative purchasing is the way to go.
Melanie, I think this is really good. Again, it gets back to accountability on how our tax dollars are being spent. Is this something that board members could really demand of the administration, if we want you to follow the cooperative purchasing agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
The board can demand anything with a majority vote. I mean, if like in Big Walnut, they have a board that's very interested in using taxpayer money wisely. They will, they can say, moving forward, if there's anything, involving these things, this space, we want the cooperative purchasing agreement to be utilized. And then it has to be that way. Now, if there's insubordination, that's another issue, but the board is the ultimate authority. So, that's good. Anything else? Okay, so you know what? I have Stephanie and I have Todd. You guys are really lucky because you know what I'm giving away in this session? I'm giving away 3rd generation AirPods. So here's what I need y'all to do. And I'm going to do it here. I'm not going to be like most vendors who wait and pull out the largest prospect. I'm going to do it right here in front of you. How's that? And you're going to walk out of here with some AirPods. So I've got your, okay, wait. Todd. Didn't I get yours?
I stuck it up on the podium.
Oh, okay. Stephanie. Who else want, you, here. Wait. Here. I know your name, but put your name in your cell. Do you want to participate in my raffle?
Oh, I shouldn't since I'm part of it.
Statistically, this is the best lottery you've ever participated in. Shame on those other school board members for not wanting to save money. I don't know who else was speaking, though. I'm sure they had some really good stuff. I think there was some stuff on racial. I don't know. I will say this. Boy, we appreciate this new wave of school board members because, it was a labor of love for all of them. They faced, horrible attacks and persecution because they had the audacity to run for office. Tracy, want to do it?
In Tennessee, it's exactly the same way.
Oh,
So many people running for school board are parents and grandparents and just taxpayers who stood up at every board meeting and just blasted them, and they just got so sick of it that they're running.
yeah.
But in Tennessee, we have a new wave of board members too, and they're awesome, but even they don't know what they're responsible for.
Right, and that's what's so great about National School Board Leadership Council because they're arming this wave of school board members with knowledge.
And most of
And-
the school board members, I know in Tennessee and a lot of other states we visit, where we speak, they don't know about
No.
money coming into their school.
No.
They don't make those decisions, they don't know how much it is, they don't know what their superintendent and education commissioner is committed to for that money.
Yeah.
They're clueless,
Right.
but they are ultimately responsible, like you said.
Yeah, and it is a labor of love. I feel like school board members should be paid more. I do. I mean, thank you. Did I get everybody who wants to be involved? What's that?
It's a lot of work if they do it right.
It's if you are it's the same as any other elected position. You can work as much or as little as you want. But this last wave, I mean, they are all in. They worked so hard, so many of them. I don't know how it was for you, but in areas that are kind of complicated.
I'm pretty fairly hated.
Oh, you're hated. Okay. Well, it's just we appreciate you so much. I mean, the general public.
Taking power away from an institution that wants to control children.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, and so we just have to keep it up. Just keep it up. All right, so I have these, and I'm going to just have somebody who didn't participate
The cameraman.
pick one.
Oh, Eli gets the pick.
Wait a minute. You got maybe I don't want you to see it.
We're not related in any way, shape, size.
Just tap the one you want.
Yep, I get that.
This one? He picked this one. Todd. It was fair. It was legit.
No way.
There you go.
Really?
Yeah, how about that?
Really? Legit? Ashley?
All right, any questions? Anything else? We finish early, so you can go have a donut or do whatever you want.